Marcus Sasser is standing out early in the Detroit Pistons training camp. Could this be the year Sasser finally breaks through and becomes a main part of the rotation? We'll break down his chances in today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, heading into year 5 covering the Pistons for the Locked On Network. I've been a credentialed media member over the last 3 years, and as usual, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We're on our way to 12,000 subscribers over on YouTube. So around 48% of you guys who listen and watch the podcast are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Later on, we will discuss JB Bickerstaff's game plan for how the Detroit Pistons will zig while the rest of the league is zagging, and whether that actually will work long-term for the Detroit Pistons. And also, Isaiah Stewart believes the Pistons would have won their playoff series against the Knicks if he was healthy. Is that the case? We'll break it down later as well. But let's start with Marcus Sasser, who, according to our beat writers and according to reports, has been turning some heads to start training camp. Ron Holland said he's been really impressed with the way he's looked. Cody Davis of the Detroit, of the Detroit News has wrote an article talking about how he is a quote, he is a dynamic player, and I expect this to be a great year for him. And I got to speak with Marcus a little bit at Media Day. I'm going to play the question I asked him and what he had to say. But outside of just my question, all the answers that he gave to everyone else at Media Day sounded like a guy who was very determined to not be a 11th man, not be I play 40 games a year and I might come in at garbage time, or if someone gets in foul trouble, I'll come in. He sounds like a guy that is determined that, hey, I want to be a mainstay in a rotation. I want to be getting minutes every single night. I want to have a role every single night. And he's talked candidly about what he thought he had to improve upon in order to secure that. So I'm going to play my question and what he had to say real quickly. And then I'll discuss how much of a chance he really has to break this rotation.
Last year, back here, this past year you shot better on twos, you shot better on threes, you shot better in the paint. Really everywhere across the board in regards to shot creation, you were one of the most efficient shot creators in the league this past year, but you only played around 57 games. What do you think is the next step in your game that you have to get to be a mainstay in a rotation and really be able to showcase that elite shot creation that you do possess?
Definitely just playmaking. I know I can score the ball, at a very high clip. Just being at my size, as a point guard, I feel like you can't just score the ball. You got to be able to do different things on the court. So that's a lot of stuff I did this summer as in playmaking, and then just knowing where my spot's at. I kind of feel like that's why my numbers went up from my rookie to second year, because I kind of knew where I was getting my shots at. So this summer, that's something I kind of took a big focus on. Knowing where I'm going to get my shots at, when I can shoot it, knowing when to pass, knowing when to be aggressive. And then, just like I said, it just comes with time and experience. So I should be ready. I'm ready for this season for sure.
So obviously it seems like, and this has been the case for the last 2 years with Marcus Sasser, is that what he was believed to be when he was drafted is not what he's being asked to be now. When he was drafted a few years ago by Troy Weaver, while he was still the general manager of the Detroit Pistons, he was going to be asked to play off ball next to another point guard, whether it be Cade Cunningham at the time, Jaden Ivey, or Killian Hayes at the time. He was asked to play next to a bigger guard and not be a point guard, just be a scoring guard. But over the last 2 years, he has been asked to be a point guard. And he talked about this last summer, and he talked about it a lot at Media Day this year in response to my question here, but also to everyone else. He talked about how he needs to improve as a playmaker, that due to his size, he has to be a point guard, and that he has to be a better table setter. He talked about how he watched Dennis Schroeder and how he took advice and really took notes on how Dennis Schroeder set the offense up and how he picked his spots, which, let me just say real quickly, Dennis Schroeder seemed to have had a big impact during his time with the Pistons. He wasn't here very long, but it wasn't just Sasser who mentioned Dennis Schroeder as a mentor, how they really appreciated his help. It was Jaden Ivey as well. Cade Cunningham mentioned him as well. So Schroeder seemed to have really left a good impact on the Detroit Pistons and their locker room and their young guys. So that's always cool to see and good to see. But the other area of Marcus Sasser's game that he has to improve upon, and he mentioned this, and I really loved hearing this answer from him at Media Day. He was asked about how he plans to be an impactful defender as he been studying tape on other guys that are around his size that find a way to be an impactful defender still and not just be picked on. And he mentioned that he actually has watched a ton on film this past summer on TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, and Drew Holiday to figure out how he can be an impactful defender at that size. And I think that's incredibly smart for him to do. I'm happy to hear that he actually did do that, and that he was self-aware enough to know that he has to go out and search for those kind of things. I love hearing that. Sasser was a guy coming into the draft that people believed he could be a good point of attack defender, and it has shown at times. It just hasn't been as good lately. So especially Nembhard and TJ McConnell, I think those are really good players for him to look at and try to replicate what they can bring to a defense. Because again, they're not very big. They're not like the tallest guys on the floor, but they are good defenders. Especially Nembhard and obviously Drew Holiday, even though Drew Holiday is built. That's why I didn't include him. But I'm sure you get some stuff out of that tape as well. But to answer the question of can Sasser actually break the rotation, I've actually last year I was not the highest on Marcus Sasser because I thought that because of his size, he was going to have to be forced to play point guard, and I just don't believe him as a point guard. But as time has gone on, as I've went back and watched more tape on him, and wrote a few articles on him and looked at his numbers and again watched more film on him, I've become more and more high on him. But I just feel like he has to be within the right role. And I really hope he's able to break it because I do believe that Marcus Sasser has legit NBA talent. Like he is a legit, now it's in small sample sizes, but he has elite shot creation. He is a very good scorer for what he does. He is a very good scorer that can score at all three levels, has very good touch. He has legit NBA talent. He just needs to be utilized in the correct way. And I'm worried that they're going to continue to force him at this point guard spot. And I just don't know if he's ever going to be that. I don't view him as a point guard. I view him as an off-ball scoring guard. I view him as someone you ask to go score the basketball. You're not asking him to go out there and be a playmaker. You're asking him to go out there and score the basketball. But let's just operate even within that realm of he's going to be the backup point guard. He's going to try to be a backup point guard for the Detroit Pistons. Whose minutes is he taking? Because you've got Cade and Jaden Ivey, and then you've got Caris LeVert as well, who's taking up some minutes at that guard position as well. So, and we've heard that they want to give Jaden Ivey backup point guard minutes. So maybe after training camp, maybe that was just talk during the summer, and we see that he actually gets to have the chance to be that backup point guard, and it's not him, or it's not Ivey, I should say, or Caris LeVert that's taking up the backup point guard minutes. It's actually Sasser, and he's being given this chance. If that's the case, that would be great. It looks like if that were to be the case, that looks like the Pistons would be going to a 10-man rotation. And JB hasn't done that very often throughout his career, but maybe they would change it for Sasser if he's really playing that well. And it sounds like he is to start training camp. Look, this is a guy who, again, like I said, could be an impact scorer for the Pistons off the bench if he is utilized correctly. And if he actually has improved as a playmaker and as a guy who can set the table, then great. Hopefully he can actually become a backup point guard. But I truly believe if you were to play him in lineups next to Caris LeVert and have LeVert be the guard or the main guy initiating the offense, or even play him next to Cade and have Cade initiate the offense and have Sasser just be that guy that is a scoring punch, he really would help your half-court offense, which is something we're about to talk about in a few minutes here. Sasser is one of those guys I do believe could help a half-court offense become more efficient because of how good he is as a shot creator, how he's able to finish at the rim, in the floater range, and mid-range, step-back threes, catch and shoot threes. He's able to score at a lot of levels. He's a very talented guy. So I'll wrap it up with this. If Sasser is not getting consistent rotation minutes this year, like if it's December and he's not getting consistent rotation minutes, this is an older prospect. If I am Marcus Sasser, I am asking for a trade. He is not like the rest of the young core that's 22, 21, 23. And it's like, oh, we can wait 3-4 years before we really get, You know, if he was that age and you want to say he can just wait, and then when he gets 25, 26, then he has a big role, fair enough. But he's already around 25 years old. He is an older prospect. He can't wait forever. Like, his NBA prime is right now. His NBA time is right now. And if the Pistons by December, like, figure out that got a consistent rotation spot for him, if I am Marcus Sasser, I am saying, okay, appreciate you guys, but I need to be traded. I need to go start my NBA career and actually have a chance to do something. I'm already getting older. I need to go have a role somewhere. So I'm going to be really interested to see if they carve out something for Sasser, because again, like I said, for a team that struggles within the half court scoring wise, and especially as a scoring option off the bench, I think there is a role for him somewhere. It's just a matter of, will they put him in that position, and can he improve enough in those areas he mentioned to where he forces their hand, maybe to get even more minutes over some veterans that are on the team. So let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Khahil. Do you guys believe that Marcus Sasser will get the chance to break the rotation this year? Do you guys believe he can be the backup point guard? Let me know all that. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. But coming up, JB Bickerstaff spoke about how I put it as, the Pistons are interested in zigging while everyone else is zagging. What is it? Everyone else is zigging and you're zagging. I get it's the same thing. You guys get it. Everyone else is doing one thing and the Pistons want to go a completely other way and be a little bit unorthodox. Is it possible for the Pistons to succeed this way? We'll break it down coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without having to touch a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA to get 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free to available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Before we get into this next topic, I do want to let you guys know on some things. Obviously, the preseason game is Monday on the 6th. First preseason game for the Pistons on the 6th against the Memphis Grizzlies. Also want to let you guys know that I'm recording this on the 3rd. Later on today, I will have a film breakdown going over on my Substack. It'll be linked down below. I will have a film breakdown about how Jalen, Duren, and Duncan Robinson are really going to mesh together, and specifically breaking down what Duren brought up about how Duncan Robinson really opened up things for Bam Adebayo. I'm going to have a film breakdown posted about that a little later as well. Last thing, the playback room is back, everybody. If you guys want to watch Pistons games with me and the rest of the Pistons fan base, you guys follow over at the playback room. I'll link that down below. We go live for every single Pistons game that I am not credentialed in at. We had a lot of fun with it last year. So much fun watching the games with you guys. So I'll link it down below for you to join the room and watch the Pistons game with us Monday against the Memphis Grizzlies, first preseason game. So stay tuned for all that. But let's go ahead and get into a very interesting topic. This is from an article written by Hunter Patterson, the Detroit Pistons beat writer for The Athletic. And within this article, you have JB Bickerstaff discussing how the Pistons want to be an explosive offense, but by being an explosive defense. And he doesn't say the word zig and zag like I'm bringing up that comparison or that saying, but I'm using that saying because basically what's being said throughout this article and what JB Bickerstaff is trying to talk about, or is insinuating it, I would say, is the topic that we've talked about a lot throughout the offseason, is that the Pistons were not the greatest half-court offense. However, they succeeded by being a great defense and then running off of their defense. Now, In the playoffs, we saw, and I've brought this number up over and over and over again, that the Pistons were the second worst half-court offense in the playoffs and the worst half-court offense of any playoff team that played more than 4 games this past year. And in the playoffs, where it does slow down a bit, you have to be able to score within the half court. It's not, the Pistons will not be able to be this elite contending team while having the worst half-court offense in a playoff. It's not going to happen. However, it seems like, based on their activity in the offseason and what it seems like they're building towards this year, seems like they're really doubling down. They're doubling down for what they were great at this past year, making that their identity and believing we don't have to be a great half-court offense. We just are going to continue to be great at what we do. We are going to double down on it, and that is going to cause us to be an explosive offense. Now, this past year, that is exactly how they succeeded. The Pistons finished last year. They were second in fast break points. They were 7th in points off turnovers. They were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA this past year. After January 1st, they were a top 5 defense in the league. And all those numbers got much better after January 1st. And the reason why I bring up January 1st is because that's when Ausar Thompson was eventually inserted into the starting lineup, and that kind of changed things. And within this article, you see that Ausar Thompson has made a pretty big, or has been made a pretty big emphasis by JB and this team. They believe he really changes the way they can play on the floor. And obviously he can, and he did this past year. But the question I want to answer is that, can they really play this way? Is this a way that they can continue to double down on and say, look, we may not be the best half-court offense. We may not be a very good half-court offense, but we are going to be so good on defense. We are going to be so fast. We are going to be so electric in transition that it will not matter. We will score enough points and we will get enough stops to where it does not matter. My answer is yes and no. I think the Pistons have a clear identity, and I think that's very important when you are trying to become a contender, when you are trying to become an elite team. You want to have an identity. You want to have something you can hang your hat on. You don't want to be one of these teams that come playoff time, you're like, we don't really know what they want to get to. We don't really know what they want to hang their hat on. We don't really know how they want to really bet on beating teams. You don't want to be one of those teams. You want to be one of those teams where teams know when the Pistons come in, we play the Pistons in the playoff series, we know what they're going to try to do to us, and they don't care what we do. They're going to continue to try to play that way because that's who they are. That's how you build something. And I think the Pistons are very clearly making their identity defense, playing super fast, and scoring in transition. We are going to score in fast break. We are going to play physical defense. We're going to take advantage defensively, and we are going to push off every single miss. We are going to try to get buckets in semi-transition, transition, fast breaks. That's how we are going to score. I think that's how the Pistons have decided to build their team. And when you have a team of athletes like Ivy, with Ausar, with Ron Holland, with Jalen Duren, when you have these guys as your main core pieces, and Cade, who plays, people say plays slower, but he was fantastic in transition this past year, either as a scorer or finding guys open. It is a recipe for success. So can the Pistons hang their hat on that? 100%. It worked last year. It worked in the playoffs. The Pistons had one of the best defenses in the playoffs this past year. Again, of any team that played more than 4 games. That starting lineup we've brought up over and over dominated defensively in the playoffs against the New York Knicks. So can they make that their identity? 100%. Can that be the main function of this team? Yes, 100%. However, they cannot. They must get, there is a breaking point. There is a bar that you have to at least reach. The Pistons don't need to be a top 5 half-court offense. They don't need to be a top 10 half-court offense. What they cannot be is a bottom 5, bottom 10 half-court offense. You are not, I don't care how good your defense is. I do not care how good you are in transition. I don't care how good you are in fast breaks. I don't care how many stops you force. If you are that putrid in the half court, you will not win enough games either during the regular season, or at the very most, you will not win very many games in the playoffs. And we saw in numerous games in the playoffs this past year, down the line, the Pistons half-court offense would shut down. The Pistons couldn't score any buckets. They'd be up by 6 or something. And then after 40 seconds, now they're down by 1 because the Knicks have a good half-court offense they can trust going into late-game situations, whereas the Pistons are really just trying to feast on, we're going to get stops. We're going to get stops. And if we do get stops, we have to run. We have to go. Because in the half-court, they just weren't that efficient. It's kind of like how, you guys know how I say when we talk about Cade, and I say Cade's probably never going to be like a Luka Doncic level offensive player. He's never going to be like a top 5 offensive player in the NBA. But can he be a top 10 to 12-ish offensive player while also being like the best defender out of that bunch or one of the best defenders out of that bunch? Yeah, and that's how he makes his impact. It's kind of the same thing here with the Pistons is, will the Pistons ever be a top 5 half-court offense with this, at least with this core, with this roster of individuals that they're building around, of guys who aren't the greatest outside shooters, guys who aren't spacing the floor out, guys as of right now we haven't seen be able to be like other creators within the half-court. Now maybe that changes this year, and that would change a lot. But are they ever going to be like one of the best half-court offenses in the NBA? No, they're just not going to. However, can they be an average half-court offense? Can they be average? If they can be average while then also being a fantastic defensive team and a team that feasts on transition and being one of the fastest teams in the league, then you have something. Like this past year for the Detroit Pistons, they were the 20th ranked team within the half court. I don't think that's going to be good enough. In the half court, they were scoring 97.4 points per play or per 100 possessions within the half court. That's not good. That's not good. And like I said, in the playoffs, they were the worst half court team in the playoffs that played more than 4 games. That's not going to do it. So the Pistons can hang their hat on this. They can say that they want to be different. And I believe they can win different. They can win differently with this team. But they have to there is a bar that they have to be able to reach in order to succeed how they want to succeed. And how do they get to that bar? Well, you need your best player, Cade. He has to turn the ball over a little less then. Can't give the other team easy points, and you can't give away half-court possessions as much. He has to become a little bit more efficient, hover around 58, 59 true shooting, be around there. All of a sudden, you're a more efficient, your best player is more efficient. I think that would really help. But the most important part is Ivy, Ausar, and Ron. Ivy has to become a better finisher and actually become this offensive player people want him to be. If he can do that, if he actually becomes that ideal version of him, that helps a ton. If Ausar can either develop, and it sounds like his ball handling is what they really specified here, and he's really, people are impressed with the way it looks. But if he can either improve his ball handling or shooting, the ball handling to be a secondary creator, a playmaker, and a guy who gets to the rim and scores at the rim, or a guy who can space the floor at least a little bit, hit some corner threes, that will vastly change the Pistons half-court offense. Same thing for Ron. If Ron can become a better three-point shooter and provide some more spacing, now the Pistons are improving on the margins where, again, maybe they never become a top 10 half-court offense, but maybe they go from 20th to 15th. Maybe they go from a bottom 10 to an average half-court offense. Because I do believe the Pistons can win with a top 10 player in the NBA. And if he's with his improved conditioning that he worked on, give him the ball late and let him win you a game. I believe that will be eventually where Cade gets to. Can they win like that by being a average half-court offense, be a great defense, run on transition, be one of the 5 best defenses in the league, be one of the 5 best fast break teams in the league. And then if it does get close late, trust your superstar to take you there. I think they can win like that. They can. And that will be a little different from how other teams play. That will be a little different than how all these other contenders look. But can the Pistons make it work? Yes. I think they can, but they still have to reach that bar. They can't be bottom 10. They have to be at least an average half-court offense. They have to improve along the margins, and then they can be this unique team that's extremely fun to watch and maybe a little difficult to plan for because they play so different. They need those margins, though, to improve from Ivy, Ausar, and Ron Holland. So let me know, comment section down below, over on Twitter, @Khahil. Do you believe the Pistons can play differently like this And where do you think they have to get to as a half-court offense to where they can be a contender playing this type of way and having this be their identity? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. But coming up, Isaiah Stewart believes that the Pistons would have won their series against the Knicks if he was healthy. I'll give my thoughts coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays. I've tried player props. This was my super favorite way a few years ago, like 2 years ago for the NBA season, following the live lines during games. You think the better team goes down 10 points. You think they're going to go on like a 20-0 run, take the lead back. I was all over that. That was probably my favorite way to bet during the NBA season. It makes watching football as well even more exciting when you've got a little something riding it on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or just love diving into the stats, which you guys know I do, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started at FanDuel.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'm letting you guys know again, the Playback Room will return for the first preseason game. If you guys want to watch the Pistons live with me and the rest of the Pistons fan base, have a lot of fun together. It's always a fun time. I will link the room down below. Join the room. You'll get notified when we go live. I really would appreciate it. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, we have a film breakdown dropping today on the 3rd. It should be dropped by like 7 o'clock on October 3rd of the Jalen, Duren, and Duncan Robinson tandem. That should be coming over at the Substack. I'll link that down below as well. But let's go ahead and get into this final topic real quick. So Isaiah Stewart said at Media Day that it was very difficult for him to watch this past playoff series because he truly believes that if he was healthy, they would have beat the New York Knicks in the first round. Now, I'm like every NBA player, maybe not every NBA player, but like if you ask a player who missed a series and the series goes, it doesn't even have to go 5-6 games. A player that's important to his team, he misses a series and you ask him, hey, do you think you guys would have won if you were healthy? I think almost all of them would probably say yes. So this is not nothing unique to Stu. This is not him saying anything crazy, I don't think. I think you would expect most NBA players that miss a series when their team, especially one as close as the one between the Pistons and the Knicks, how competitive those games were. I'm sure anybody would walk away saying, man, if I was just healthy, we would have won that series. So I don't blame him for thinking that at all. Do I believe that is true? Possibly. I do think that's possibly the case. And I want to say this too quickly before we go into it. This is not in any way disrespecting the Knicks. The Knicks were a very good team, obviously. They are a very good team. And I'm not trying to dismiss them. I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I'm not trying to say they got lucky at all. Like nowhere near am I trying to at all take away from the Knicks winning. They won. They were the better team. They outplayed the Pistons. They deserve to win. Like, I'm not trying to be one of those sore losers who is like, oh, you guys are lucky. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. However, with that being said, Isaiah Stewart, losing him was, I think, so impactful specifically for a series against the Knicks because he was probably the best, maybe the best option, one of the best options in the East to guard Cat and be able to switch 1 through 5 for the Detroit Pistons. And when he went down and he didn't play the rest of the series, it's actually pretty shocking that the Pistons were able to be as good as they were defensively against a 5-out team like the Knicks with a guy like Cat. For them to be as successful as they were defensively, it was shocking. With that said, though, we've talked about this a ton in the podcast, and I went through every single Cat 3 for the Substack and went through the film breakdown and Tobias and Jalen Duren season or playoff season review. Cat still gave Jalen Duren some problems. And Jalen Duren, again, I thought he gave the Pistons everything he had in that playoff series. And I thought he should walk away from that playoff series, proud of how he played, 100%. But Cat was a problem for JD, especially on trailing threes, especially on guarding him out on the perimeter, closing out on the catch. Like those were real issues for JD guarding Cat. And that's why the Pistons decided to guard Cat with Tobias Harris for the majority of the series. But when Tobias got in foul trouble in a few of those games, or he came out the game, the Pistons were really just like they didn't have any other options. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is one of the perks. This is not a diss to either Duren or Stu, but it's more so a compliment that the Pistons have two guys that excel in two different areas. And depending on the team, depending on the scheme that you're going against, you have two options. You can throw whoever's best at that out there. And do I believe that Stu would have closed a lot of the games in that playoff series? I do. I think he would have closed a lot of those games. I think he would have played around the same amount as JD simply because of how much the matchup favored him versus Cat. And I think having him on the floor, again, we just got done talking about how the Pistons' best offense was their defense. And Isaiah Stewart was another one of the main reasons why they got stops. He helped trigger those stops, helped trigger those fast breaks, and open up those opportunities. So having Stu would have helped them a ton. And maybe JD wouldn't have had to play as much. Tobias wouldn't have had to play as much. They wouldn't have would have been asked to play as much versus Cat. And I think Isaiah Stewart would have been a huge difference for the Pistons. He was such a big part of what they did this past year. The fact that they were able to push it to 6 games when Stu went down is honestly crazy. Like when I found out Stu wasn't going to play the rest of the series, I privately thought, yeah, this is cooked. Like, I don't know how they're going to be able to play defense now against Cat. Like, they're like, I don't know what they're going to do. And they were able to do it nonetheless. So that gives them a lot of, obviously the Pistons a lot of credit. JD, Tobias, JB Bickerstaff, all of them for making it go without Stu. But I do think they would have had a chance. And if Stu was healthy, I think it definitely goes 7. I think they go 7 games for sure. Whether they win or not, we'll see. A young team in their first ever Game 7 on the road in Madison Square Garden doesn't sound like an advantageous position for them. It would have been a tough challenge to overcome. But could they have done it? 100%. I think Stu's that important to this team, especially for that matchup. And if you did need to switch across the board and you need him to switch on to Brunson, I don't think there's another big in the league in the Eastern, or maybe let's just stay in the Eastern Conference, that would have been better equipped to do that and give the Pistons more flexibility defensively. So I won't come out outright and say they would have won, because I feel like that would be disrespectful to the Knicks, but I think it definitely would have went Game 7, and the Pistons would have had a much better chance to win against the Knicks. And hopefully this year, when the Pistons get to the playoffs, Stu is in a healthy position. And that's low-key something that I've mentioned this in the offseason. That's low-key something we need to watch for. Stu has been banged up at the end of almost every season of his career. So hopefully he can make it to the end of this year healthy and be able to play in the playoffs. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. Do you guys believe the Pistons would have won the playoff series against the Knicks if Isaiah Stewart played? Again, let me know. Comment section, Twitter, all that good stuff. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.